Hello, neighbor. My name is Robert J. Ray. I'm a professional counselor and therapist and trainer of trainers. I worked at a mental health prison for 11 years. I have fixed a lot of broken men and women in my 45 years as a counselor and therapist. I was born in Maria, Mississippi and graduated from the famous T.J. Harris High School in 1963. T.J. Harris played Brinkley and Jim Hill in football and basketball every year before that stumbling block of integration dissembled the black race. I ran for mayor of Meridian in 2021. I ran for governor of Mississippi in 2019. I'm Robert J. Ray, the man with all of the answers, every Monday at 4 p.m. Watch me on WeBelieve.global. Hello, neighbor. Welcome to the Robert J. Ray Show, the man with all of the answers. I'm excited to be with you again this week. Hey, I want to thank everybody for supporting us when my niece was lost. I'm happy to say that our clan came out smelling like a rose because we found her in Georgia, and now we got her down in Florida, and she's getting some the help she needs. So thank you for that. Now I want to shift gears and share a little something about my franchise. I was selling my franchise for the Organism Chapter 4 last week. Got good responses. But, hey, I got a lot more franchises that need to be bought. And, look, hey, I was telling you that the process is a $1 billion process. It has made me a multimillionaire on YouTube. You understand that? That made me a multimillionaire. A 70-year, 5-year-old man becoming a millionaire on YouTube. But it wasn't me. And don't nobody want no 75-year-old man. They won't even listen to you anywhere you go. A 75-year-old black man at that. And but the process is what won them over. The process. They said, "Hey, Mr. Ray, people love to watch those watch your videos," and they watched it to the point that now I'm a multimillionaire. I don't have to sell any franchises. I don't. I can just sit back and spend the money that I've already made. But I'm not like that. I like to be doing something, and I love to teach this process. I've been teaching this process for 40 years, and every time I step in to do a session from the Organism Chapter 4, I mean, it's just like I'm a new kid in a candy store. I mean, it never ends, because the thing about it is you want to be able to look at people and watch them grow. That's the beauty in the Organism Chapter 4 process. And you can be a sister and a brother. Y'all can put in $300 or $400, $500 a piece to purchase your franchise, and then because it's going to take a year for me to train you. And I'm starting the training on January the 3rd. So you got up until the end to purchase your franchise. You ain't got to have your $10,000. And in the process, the organism process is going to make you rich. It's going to make you famous, because you might be the only one in your city with the franchise. And if that's the case, hey, you get it. I could have been rich a long time ago. My mentor's wife told me to stay in Michigan and she would make me a millionaire, which I had helped her make millions out of her basement. Just think, if you got the chapter, the same process that she used to make millions out of her basement, just think if you had a building somewhere. And because we had to turn a lot of people down because we didn't have a large enough facility. But if you had your own place, your own building, with this process being taught inside it, there's no telling how much money you can make. And then you can get the government money too. And they just sitting there waiting to give money away for a process that can fix the little dysfunctional adolescents, dysfunctional junior high and middle school, and the dysfunctional high school students. They had a football game down in Maria, my hometown, Friday night. They had to stop the football game because the students was fighting. Black female students fighting. They had to stop the game for 40 minutes. That shouldn't happen, people. But see, it happened because these individuals are dysfunctional. They need to know how to behave. And they don't know how to do that. They can't get it from home. They can't get it from their family. So they just go out in the world and they just wild. And the only thing that can stop that is when the police and the court system step in. And all they can do is just lock you up like you're an animal and they was fighting. My neighbor showed me the fights, and it was just like they was trying to kill each other. Why is it that black people like to kill each other like that? Well, the one reason is the Willie Lynch syndrome. Y'all need to check that out. But anyway, you can still get the franchise, because if it can make a 75-year-old man a multimillionaire, just think what it can do for you. You young, hey, you could become a billionaire maybe by getting the franchise. Okay, this week's show is on my favorite individual, Emanuel Swedenborg. And I'm going to be talking. Can you put that up on the, there he is, Earths in the universe. That's what we're going to be talking about now. We have so many people that want to say, is it people on other planets? Is there any UFOs flying out there? And this week I'm gonna tell you what Emanuel Swedenborg wrote about. And this book was written. Now that's the new one. I got one of the original versions here, Earths in the Universe. They done put his picture on there, but this was the one I bought back in '76. I've been reading this book since the '76. I've been knowing what was out there on those Earths in the universe. And they say, well, who is Swedenborg? A lot of people ask me. We would be at work, and people would be saying, be telling you about who they've come across that's brilliant, that knows stuff, that they done got hooked into them, and I'm gonna be on their bandwagon. And then I would say, well, what about Emanuel Swedenborg? And they would say, who? I say, Emanuel Swedenborg. They, who is that? I say, okay. I say, you tell me what the individual that you all hyped up about, and I give you a little Swedenborg. And they will start telling me what their person is. It might be their pastor, it might be their school teacher, might be somebody that's done discovered something and in the news. But then when I show them what Emanuel Swedenborg has done, and I start reading it off, and they just sitting there, with their lips dropped, because they don't think if a man could do all of this stuff. But he did it. And this is who I say that we need to listen to, because he mastered all known knowledge in the world. And the infinite man then chose him to do some other stuff for him. And the one thing he chose for him to do is he intromitted him into the spiritual world, where he could talk to the people that have already died. You remember, they say, well, how do you know that? Well, he proved it. You remember I told you about the lady that the goldsmith was going to charge her a very expensive sum that her husband had already paid, but he had died and was over in the world of spirits. And she had heard about Swedenborg, and she, when Swedenborg came back to her town, she begged him to say, look, if you can, talk to my husband to find out where that receipt is where he paid this goldsmith. And that's exactly what Swedenborg, the next time he came to town, he had talked to her husband, who was over in the spiritual world, living over there, and he told her what his wife was going through, and he told Emanuel Swedenborg where the receipt was. And he went back by there, and she had a group over. She was kind of wealthy. Anytime you get having stuff with the goldsmith, you're pretty wealthy, but you don't want to pay no exorbitant bill that you've already paid. So Emanuel Swedenborg went by there and told her, say, hey, it's upstairs in the bureau drawer. No, I don't look. They went up. Her and her guest went up there, and Emanuel Swedenborg says, in that drawer, and it's a secret compartment up under there, and that's where the receipt is. You remember me telling you that? And that's exactly what the receipt was. It was up under there. It's no way that Emanuel Swedenborg could have known that unless he talked to the man that had put it there, and he was dead and in the world of spirit. That's why it's hard to discount what Swedenborg said, because all of the people all over Europe, the kings and queens, he's done one queen that he went and talked to her brother who was over in the world of spirit and brought back a secret that they had between the two of them. She was the queen of Spain, and they was warring with Russia. And she sent a letter to her brother who was in Russia and living there. And if they would have found out that she'd done that, she could have been charged with treason and been hung. So that they never told that secret. But when Emanuel Swedenborg came back and told her exactly what her brother had told her, she turned white, almost fainted, because didn't nobody know that. So Emanuel Swedenborg, he proved that he was intromitted into the spiritual world. And I don't have no doubt in my mind about it. So everything I tell you about Emanuel Swedenborg and what he did was a genuine truth. I know that a lot of widows, and that's what this lady was. When a widow, when their husband dies, they become a widow. Now, the word widow means love without its wisdom. And when I explain to you what that means, I know you don't know what it means now, but this is what it means. It means that when the husband dies, then the wife, she don't have the rationale to deal with people. She don't have the wisdom that the husband have. So she's an easy mark. It was one scam they used to run on widows, and this was a Bible salesman. He would look in the obituary and he'd find out who was there. And after the funeral, he would go visit the widow, and he would have this big expensive Bible. And he said, "Oh, is that right?" Say, "Well, he ordered this Bible for your family before he died, and he wanted to make sure that it gets here. And here it is, and he's gone. That's such a sad thing." And that's gonna distract the widows. Oh, he was gonna buy that. Yeah, he was gonna buy this Bible, but that's a lie. He wasn't gonna buy the Bible. But if the husband was there, if she had some wisdom, she would say, "Hey, no, that's too easy. You just pulling a scam. Hey, I know my husband. He ain't gonna order no Bible. He don't even read the one we got now." But this is how widows, they always getting taken. Females, if females don't have, they love, but they don't have rationale and wisdom, and that's where the man comes in at. And this is what happened to widows when their husband die. Then they just get scammed all over the place. Now, I'm going to talk about Earths in the universe, because a lot of people want to know if there's people on the other planets. And this is my copy. I've been reading it for years and years. I think I started reading the first one in 1976. And it's called, and in my copy it said, Earths in our solar system, which are called planets. Earths in the starry heaven, their inhabitants and the spirits and angels there. You hear that? The inhabitants and the spirits there. And I'm going to explain to you what that means. And look at what I said. From things seen and heard by Emanuel Swedenborg over in that world, which means that he talked to angels that knew, because they had got it from the horse's mouth. They knew that it was people that lived on other planets and what their character was and what did they do on their planets and stuff like that. So Emanuel Swedenborg talked to them, and they told him exactly what the issue was and why it was inhabitants on the other planets. And this is what this little book is about. I'm not going to be able to do the whole book, but you can still buy it, because there it is up there, and they still got it there today. But I'm going to kind of give you some feedback on what's in the book and let you make up your own mind whether to believe it or not. But like I said, Emanuel Swedenborg, he proved who he was and what he did. And this is what I'm going to share something with you. It said, this is what I wrote, beginning for a fifth or sixth reading. Yeah, I don't read it more than that, but that was at that time. That was in May 29, 1988. And I said, for my future grandchildren. And I said I loved it. And I was out at Highland Park reading this. And I was in there, and I was and it was sunny and mild. That's where it was. And I was reading this in 1988, and nobody had a clue. I know any of y'all have a clue that this type of knowledge was in the world. And he wrote this. The first edition was written in English in 1860. That was almost 5 years before slavery was in it. So wasn't any black people doing any reading too much back during them days. And then they had a second edition, third edition, reprinted 1875, 1894, 1909, 1931, 1940, 1962, 1970. And it's been in the world since then. But here we are, still listening to Hawkins and them and his crew and his posse. Y'all know who Hawkins is, don't you? Well, I'm going to explain who he is when we get back. If you would like to book a counseling session, go to the organismchapter4.com. And all of my books are available on Amazon. We'll be right back after we take a break. The black American race is the only race in the USA who do not have connate rational minds to pass down to their offspring, which means the black baby boys being born today will not have their precious gem to compete with all the other races for their piece of the American dream. Why is it that other races can enter the USA with little or nothing and in a few years have more than the black race? The reason: no rational mind. You have to have a rational mind to operate a business and make it pay. The Black and White Race Rationale by Robert J. Ray. Available on Amazon. Get your copy today. Welcome back, neighbors. I was just getting ready to tell you, read you something about the table of contents. What's in this particular book? Earth's in the universe, the planet Mercury, the planet Jupiter, the planet Mars, the planet Saturn, the planet Venus, the moon. And the reason why this is something that's profound. The reason why the Lord willed to be born on our earth and not any other. That alone would give you knowledge that nobody you'll probably ever run into will know. And then he goes on to, Emanuel Swedenborg goes on to say, Earth's and not at all. Earth's in the starry heaven, the first earth, the second earth, the third, the fourth, the fifth earth in the starry heaven. That means that not only are we going to talk about the earths in this universe, but we're going to talk about some that's over in other universes. And all the universe is where there's a sun, there's a universe. I remember I used to go out, when I lived in the country and was growing up, I would go out on a night, clear night, and I would look up in the sky, and it would be so many stars up there, and you would wonder, why are there so many in this? And then, but after I started reading Swedenborg, I seen that, hey, all of those stars is a sun to give heat and light to Earths. That's just simple as that. That's what they want. They look like, they call them stars, but actually they are suns. And they give heat and light in the atmosphere to planets all throughout the universe. Now, the first thing that I'm going to read, this is how Emanuel Swedenborg starts it off. And I'm speaking for Emanuel Swedenborg. That's what I'm speaking for. And this is him talking. And he says, inasmuch as by divine mercy of the Lord, the interiors which are of my spirit has been opened in me, and it has thereby been given me to speak with spirits and angels, not only with those who are near our earth, but also with those who are near other earths. And since I had an ardent desire to know whether there were other earths and to know their character and the character of their inhabitants, it has been granted me by the Lord to speak and have intercourse with spirits and angels who are from other earths, with some for a day, with some for a week, with some for months. Can you get to that? Now, this is a man that the infinite man chose to bring this information into the world. And all it was, is he just opened Emanuel Swedenborg interiors up. Just think about it. This is nothing. This had been done before. With John, when he wrote Revelation, and he saw that four-headed monster coming up out of the sea, all that is that the infinite man had opened John's eyes, his interiors up to see that. And in their prophets, in Moses, and all of these, he came to him and he said, hey, I got this work for you to do. And he let them have glimpses of that world. But he intromitted Emanuel Swedenborg into it so he could be over there and talking with the spirits and angels. That's what he did for Emanuel. That was the greatest miracle that has ever been performed since the beginning of time. Isn't that something? Just this man, that's the greatest miracle, that is to be intromitted into that world where you can be walking in the spiritual world and then you'll be back here walking in the natural world. That's the privilege that he gave to Emanuel Swedenborg. I'm going to read on. And to be instructed by them respecting the earth from and near which they were, and concerning the life, customs, and worship of their inhabitants, besides various other things that are worthy of note. And all it was, he learned what the behavior patterns of other inhabitants on the other planets were, what their daily activities were, what their worship were, what God they worshiped, what their church was like, and all of these things. Now you say, well, that can't be true. But you'll listen to Hawkins now. You remember me mentioning Hawkins before we went to the first break? You know who Hawkins is? Hawkins is the little guy that's all squished up in the wheelchair, but he's supposed to be the authority on space and what's out there. And him and his posse, now they're trying to figure out the black hole. I know you've heard about it. Don't sit there like you ain't heard about the black hole, because they've made moves about the black hole. But their thing is they're trying to figure out what is the use of the black hole and what does it do, the black hole. And after you understand the writings of Emanuel Swedenborg, the way he's telling it doesn't exist. There is no such thing as a black hole. If it was, what would be the use of it? And every time they got all of these figures and terms and formulas up on the board, and they've got computer machines all over the world trying to figure out the black hole. Can you get to that? And it's nothing. They got all of these machines trying to figure out nothing. There is no such thing as a black hole. If it is, neighbor, then you tell me, what is the rationale for it? What does it do? We know what planets do. We know what they do. They circle around in their zodiac every year. Every planet in the universe circle its sun in the zodiac every year, and that's a year. And it takes us through the seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. We know that. We know that's what those planets do. And we know what the sun does. We know it gives light and heat, and it makes the atmosphere, the aura, the ether, and the air. If you went up so high and you didn't have on an oxygen tank, then you would pass out because it's ether up there. And I've experienced ether before. I had my tonsils taken out in Trenton, New Jersey in about 1956 or 57, me and my sister both, because they said that was the thing to do. But it really wasn't. You should keep your tonsils your whole life. But if you have a cold or something, that was the medical thing back then. It was take your tonsils out. And they took me in there and they put this thing over my face, and it was ether. And they said to breathe. I think I breathed about 4 or 5 times, man, and I was out. And that's the way you would be if you went up to where the ether was. You got your air, then up here you got your ether, and then up here you got your aura. But if you go up past that air and get into the ether, you'll pass out. And that's the way it is. So we know what the planets do. We know what the sun does. And we know what the moons do. You know the moons control the tides, don't you? I know you probably learned that in school. They control the tides. The tides go in and the tides go out, and the moons do that. And then some moons, they give light. You know, on a full moon night, you can walk down the road and see just as good, just like it was in the daytime. It's just like you in the shade. And some moons, like the ones that's out there, way out there where Saturn is, just think about it. We 93 million miles from the sun, and we get our heat and light and stuff like that. Just think if you was way out there where Saturn was. Just think how far that was. The light is going to be faint light when it gets out there. It's not going to be as powerful as the light is with Mercury, Mars, Venus, and our Earth. So it's way out there. So it has these moons around it to give reflected light. And like you say, one moon can give you a lot of light on a dark night when the moon is full. And if you was out there in Saturn, it's got about 5 or 6 moons around it. That's that light that shines around Saturn. Everywhere you see Saturn, they got this light around it. But those are just moons, so that when the sun's light hit these moons, they can reflect that light down to the planet, and their inhabitants there can see. They can see how to do what they need to do. And this is what those planets and things are. And then they turn on their axis. We know that the planet turns on its axis, and that causes what? That causes the day. That causes the time of the day. You got your morning when the sun comes up, then you got your 12 o'clock, then you got your evening, and then you got your night. That happens in this world every 24 hours. But in Mercury, being closer to the sun, closer one to the sun, it only have a 9-hour day. So it goes through that day quicker in 9 hours instead of 24. And you can just about project that Saturn, it probably take 40 hours or 50 hours to go through one of their days, maybe. But this is what these things do, the planets do. And when they go through that zodiac around the sun, and every planet does this out there in the universe, every one of them goes through that zodiac. But this is something that is going to knock you out of control. The Earth has been circling our sun for about 60,000 years. That's about how old the Earth is. They want to say it's millions of years old, but it's not about 60,000 years old. And every year it has made that revolution. But this here is the astonishing thing. It has never made the same identical revolution around the sun. Isn't that something? And you say, well, why is that? How you doing it? Well, the reason for that is that that God is an infinite God. The infinite man is infinite. So if he's infinite, that means that there'll never be two things exactly alike. You could gather every leaf from every planet in the universe and try to get two that's exactly like, you never do it. Because it's infinite. There will never be, the Earth will never make the same revolution around the sun, never go the same path throughout all eternity. No planet will. So we know what these things do. We know why they do these things. But Hawkins them and his posse trying to figure out what the black hole does. And they can't figure it out because there's nothing to figure out. There is no black hole. They want to tell you that these black holes, they'll suck up a whole planet. Yeah, what for? Why? Why would a whole planet be sucked up? It doesn't make sense. That wouldn't be rational. That wouldn't even be common sense to think that it's a big hole out there that can suck up a planet and it just disappears. So what happens is that these scientists, they come up with these theories and all of this stuff, but they try to look out there with a telescope and try to look and figure out through the effect of something to tell you what the cause and the end of it is. When here, Emanuel Swedenborg knew what the end of it was. He got with the individuals that knew. The angels knew because the infinite man had shared it with them. How he had did it, why he had done it, and why those earths maneuver out there and turn and twist like they do. And it's because there are inhabitants on all of those planets, the same as the ones here. And this is what's going on. So when you listen to Hawkins them wonder about the black hole, you don't even have to watch that anymore because there's no such thing as a black hole because there's no use for it. Everything else that was created got a use. And that use is so that inhabitants and human beings can live on that particular planet. See, I just throw that out there for you so to put in your mind so you can try to understand what I'm sharing with you when I read more of Earths in the universe about this. So now, if you would like to book a counseling session, go to theorganismchapter4.com and you can get all of my books are available on Amazon.com. We will be right back after the break, people. And I've got some more genuine, true stuff for you to absorb. Y'all niggas was born into a faith-only religion. Baptist, Methodist, Holiness, or Catholic. But y'all have one thing in common, believing that faith only will save you. Y'all were taught to believe that Jesus died on the cross for your sins, and y'all bought into it without questioning whether it was genuinely true or not. Just because your parents introduced you into it, but don't blame them so much as the false preachers who preach this false Nicene Council 325 AD doctrine. The Nigger's Holy Bible by Robert J. Ray, available on Amazon. Get your copy today. All right, neighbor. Now, I'm going to share something with you that this is amazing here. And but I got to share it with you because I don't want to forget to share it with you. The reason that there are no UFOs has ever been in this world and came down from anywhere else is because Emanuel Swedenborg say he was told that this is the only earth that has the written word. And what I mean by that is the only one that have printed word. You know, they had this back when you learned in history that they had it on stones. They used to print stuff on stones, tablets, and all of that. And now you see the words the way you read it. But he said this is the only planet in the universe that has the written word. Now, what does that mean? Well, one thing it means is that in order to build a spaceship or anything to go into space, you have to have a blueprint. And the only way you can have a blueprint, you got to have writing. And you got to show where each and everything goes on paper. You got to have it on paper. This is the only earth in the universe that Emanuel Swedenborg said was told him that has that ability. And the reason for that is so that the word could be spread all around. Now, in the spiritual world, they got writings. They can say it. But for us, the natural universe, we're the only planet that has right. That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, I know it is. I know it. I know you just there. You almost you can't, you beside yourself because you don't know whether to believe what I'm saying or not. But just keep listening. Emanuel Swedenborg said, "It is necessary that it be known that all spirits and angels are from the human race, and they are near their own earths, and are acquainted with what is up on them, and that a man may be instructed by them, if his interiors are so far open as to enable him to speak and be in company with them. For man in his essence is a spirit, and is in company with spirits as his interiors. Wherefore he whose interiors are opened by the Lord is able to speak with them as man with man." Isn't that something? Yeah, we all got that ability. We just have to try to perfect it. You know, I always was a big thinker. I said, why was this here? And I always observe and watch people. But it had to be providence for me to get hooked into Emanuel Swedenborg. And they said that, and it says right there that your interiors can be opened up. And if you're around your earth, then the angels can come and speak with you. I remember they had a program on, and I used to like to watch it because it had to do with angels and people who had experienced angels at the time. And it would show these people that it was one specifically that this little girl had got locked up in this fire. And this fire was raging. Her parents was out on front, but she was still in there. The fire department, they said it was too hot to go in there and everything. And they thought she had burned up, but she had made it out the back. And so after everything was down and they found out she was at the back, and they say, how did you get out of there? And she said that her grandfather had came and led her out of the back door. And they say, your grandfather, who was already dead, by the way. But she said that's who had led her out of the back door and saved her life. And so, everybody, they was kind of confused, what about the grandfather? Well, he's been dead for so long. But who led out the back door? And then when they went in there to look at the burnt down place, the door had a lock on it. It had a lock on it up here where she couldn't even get to it if she wanted to get to it. And it was locked. But he had took her out of that back door some kind of way. See, so things like that. There was a lot of different programs they had where people had encountered angels, and the scientists, they couldn't give an explanation for it. They always have to get it on paper and look at it and then analyze it. Yeah, why can't you just believe that it happened? The angel, her grandfather came in there and got out of there and saved her life. She did that. So I just wanted to throw that in, because they say that these spirits and angels are around the planets of the inhabitants. And I read where on a lot of the other planets, angels visit them often. And they visit them because they want to instruct them on how they should live their life and to get ready for the next life, the death. And we'll read if I ever get to the planet Mercury, some of those spirits know that there's another world, and they know that they're going to be living after death because angels come and instruct them and let them know how they should behave while they're in the natural world, so that they may be able to be in heaven in their spiritual world. Every planet has a space or a place in heaven. That's what Emanuel Swedenborg says. And when you get to reading Swedenborg, you'll find all this stuff out. But the people on Mercury, they don't live to be about 35 years old. But just think about it. Their days is 9 hours. So a 35-year-old person on Mercury would actually be, 24, 9, 9 is 18, 20. So they would be going through 3 days compared to our 1 day. So instead of living to be 65, they live to be 35, but they probably have lived like we would be when we were 65 or something like that. That's just my projection of why they die at 35. And it's just more amazing things like that out there. Let me read some other stuff that Emanuel Swedenborg says. He said, it has been granted me to enjoy this privilege daily for 12 years. Can you get to that? He first was intromitted into the spiritual world in about 1744, something like that, because he started writing the spiritual diary at that time. That means he wrote about the experiences that he had in that world. And now, at this point in time, he had been able to do this, been permitted to do this by the infinite man for 12 years. Can you imagine being able to go into that world daily for 12 years to see and hear what's there and to come back and write about it? And he almost wrote about everything that he probably seen and done, because it's volumes and volumes. And I think I read about every one of them. And he had this privilege. He had been doing it for 12 years. That's amazing. Let me read some more for you. He said, this earth and all who adore the divine under the human form are accepted. Nope, I turned too many pages in. Let me get back. Okay. He says that there are many earths and many men upon them, and spirits and angels from them. It's very well known in another life. For in that life, everyone who from a love of truth and consequent use desires it is allowed to speak with spirits of other earths, so as to be convinced that there's a plurality of worlds, and informed that the human race is not from one earth only, but from numberless earths, and so as to be informed besides of what genius and life they are, and of what character their divine worship is. See? And that's what he's telling you, that, hey, it's a plurality. There's numberless worlds out there, and all of them have individuals on it. And you can, when you get over in the world of spirits, when you finally wake up over there and you understand what has happened to you, because most people, they don't believe in a life after death. They believe they're going to be laying in a grave till Gabriel blows his horn. That's that Christianity stuff that they tell you. And that's up to you if you want to believe. But either way, in a few days, you're going to still be waking up over there. Now you got to try to figure out what to do now. I didn't know I was going to be over here. I didn't know this. What can I do? And this is why the whole volumes of writings of Emanuel is to get you prepared to live a life in the next world, after this world. After you spent everything you can in this world, now you're going to be waking up over there in that world, and now you're going to have to live a spiritual life. But do you know what a spiritual life is? No, majority, 99.9% of you don't. And that's where the rub comes in at it, because it's just like if you go over to Singapore and you've never been over to Singapore before, you don't know what kind of life they live over there. You really don't. But you can get in trouble if you don't know what kind of life they live in. You got to know what the laws are, what the rules are when you get over in the world of spirits. And that's why it's so important that you learn something before you get over there. Now, I use Singapore because a little white guy went over there, and he was from America, and he thought he was privileged, that he could do whatever he wanted to do, and this was a backwards third world type country. And he stole a portrait, a a picture off of the wall of the hotel he was in. He didn't know. They arrested his butt, took him down there and put him in jail, and was going to whip him. I don't think they whipped him, but they was going to whip him. And they put him in jail, and he couldn't get out. And they were going to give him some time for that. And he was distraught, and he was just, he said, I didn't mean to do it. I'm sorry. Can I just go home? They won't let him home. They won't put him in jail. And they did keep him over there in jail. All because he did not know what the rules were in Singapore. You don't tear any picture off of the wall in a hotel. That's bad business. And they wanted to whip him. They had these big old long whippers, and they would whip you for that and then put you in jail for a time. But I think in doing negotiation, and once they saw that he was really sincere and sorry, that he was just dumb and didn't know any better, I think they might have eventually got him out of there. But this is where it is. If you don't know what the rules are when you get over in that world of spirit, then you're going to be making all kind of mistakes. And when you make mistakes, that starts you off going downward because you're unfamiliar with what you should be doing over there. See, you used to live in a natural life. You used to getting what you can for yourself, or going and partying and getting with your friends and doing different stuff and sinning and doing all of this stuff. And when you get over there, then now it's critical. If you do these things now, then it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. If you start over there doing all the criminal stuff you was doing in this world and sinning you was doing in this world and start doing it over there, then they're going to have to come scoop you up and put you in a prison over there. And prisons over there is what they call hell. That's all hell is in that world. It's an infernal prison. They scoop you up if you can't be around decent people, if you can't be around polite company, if you can't be around people that's obeying the commandments, then they have to scoop you up and put you what the people are who are like you. And that's usually in a hell, in a prison. So, and they got all kind of myriads of different kind of prisons over there, but they call it hell. And that's what you got to be looking forward to when you go over there. If you would like to book a counseling session, go to the organismchapter4.com. All of my books are available on Amazon Books. We will be right back after the break. Senator James Oliver Eastland, he headed up the U.S. Judiciary Department for many years, the highest judiciary committee of the United States of America. He was my guidance, my superior, protector, and mentor. He did show me how the slick communist Jews was coming into Mississippi and corrupting our blacks, who were only a few generations past being ignorant slaves. Slaves whom had been long supported with home, food, and upkeep until a war released them from so-called slavery into poverty, homelessness, and without assistance. We grew up together. Killer Killing by Larry Ellis. Available on Amazon. Get your copy today. Hey, I'm really having a good time sharing this with you people. I know you may not understand it. You might say, well, Ray don't know what he's talking about. But like I said, I do have all of the answers, and I've gotten them from the people who had all of the answers. Now, let me read some more. I've been talking too much probably. Y'all probably wanted to hear more about what Emanuel Swedenborg learned when he was over there about the earth and the universe. So here's Emanuel Swedenborg saying, I have sometimes spoken on the subject with the spirits of our earth, and it was said that a man of sound understanding may conclude from many things which he knows that there are more earths than one, and that there are human beings upon them. For it is an inference of reason that such huge bodies as the planets are, some of which exceed this earth in magnitude, are not empty bodies, created only to be carried and to rotate around the sun and to shine with their scanty light for the benefit of one earth only. You hear that? I said something about that earlier. All of these planets, and seeing, you'll see scientists say, oh, we're the only ones out here. One little old rock, far from the planet, and we're the only one. All the rest of the universe is for us. Wouldn't that be something? It would have been better not to even create it, because the people in this world is demonic and is evil and is false and criminal as they are. It might, all the pollution that goes on in this planet, and all of the conflicts and all of the murdering that goes on and the wars that goes on. Yeah, what would be the rationale in it? Yeah, we don't even deserve it. We don't even deserve it. But to have the gall and the vanity to think that we was the only people on the planet out here in the universe, I mean, it just boggles my mind for people to think that. I knew when I was a little boy, it had to be more to it than just that. Let me read on. Emanuel Swedenborg say, but that they must need have a nobler use than this. He who believes, as everyone ought to believe, that the divine created the universe for no other end than an existence of the human race and of a heaven from it, for the human race is the seminary of heaven, cannot but believe that wherever there is an earth, there are human beings. You got that? He said, wherever there's an earth, there's human beings. And all of these earth was created so that human beings could be on it, and so that there could be a heaven from the human race. Listen to me now. The reason that the infinite man created human beings in the first place is so that there could be a heaven from the human race. Now, what you say to that? What you say to that? Yeah, just like Eddie Kingsley sung that song. I love that song. He said, what you say to that? See, and those guys, boy, they were singers, just not getting off the subject, but they were singers back in those days. They could sing. Him and my homeboy, David Ruffin, all them. I loved them. I listen to them every day. But they didn't have a lick of rationale, people, not a lick of it. That's why they ended up how they did. But they could sing. They were singing fools. But this is why he created the universe in the first place. And so that after we die, we could come into the spiritual world and we could be in heaven, where we might be walking in heaven one day out there and run into the infinite man and talk to him face to face. And he's going to be loving us all the way, all throughout eternity, making us happy, making us joyous. Because you can't get that in this world. You know, what's to happen in this world? You know, it can't be money. You know, because now I got as much money as I ever need, and it is not making me any happier than what I already was, because I know that knowing the infinite man and the free things that he have for you. You know what makes me happy? I'm going to tell you. I know y'all say I got a big mouth, I talk about myself. But when I can get up in the morning and walk out in the first morning air, breathe that fresh air that's just coming in with a new day, with the sun coming up, and listening to the birds sing, and drink me a cup of chowa tea, and just enjoy the birds singing to me and know that I don't have an unhealthy organ in my body. I don't have any doctor's appointments to go to. I don't have any illnesses to be trying to take care of, see, and getting ready for my day to perform some uses, which might not be anything but taking some lady to the doctor, taking her to the doctor, or going shopping, or going to pick up something from the health food store. That's what makes me happy. It's not the money or fame or power like that, because that's just temporary stuff there. But I know y'all put so much store in it. Y'all want to be rich. Y'all want to be famous. And then you go talk to the people who have achieved these things and ask them, how happy are you really? And you'll be surprised at what they tell you. And that's why they say that things in life are free. The best things in life are free. And that's what makes me happy, to do what I just explained to you. Now let me get back to some of what Emanuel Swedenborg said about the Earth and the universe. He says that the planets, which are visible to our eyes, being within the boundaries of the solar system, are Earths that may be clearly seen from the following consideration. They are bodies of earthly matter because they reflect the sun's light, and when seen through the telescopes appear not as stars shining from their flame, but as Earths variegated with dark spots. And we've seen that from the shells that have went up. We've seen how the Earth look. It's dark in some places, blue in some places, and it's lighter in some places. Now, they are carried around the sun, advances through the path of the zodiac, which I've explained, where motion causes years, season, the sea of the year, which are spring, summer, autumn, winter. They likewise rotate upon their own axis just as our Earth does. And this rotation causes days and times of the day, that is morning, midday, evening, and night. And moreover, some of them also have moons, which are called satellites, which perform the revolution around their globes at stated times, and the moons does around ours. The planet Saturn, like I explained, because it is so far distant from the sun, has also a great luminous ring which supplies that Earth with much, although reflected light. How is it possible for anyone who is acquainted with these facts and think from reason to assert that such bodies are uninhabited? Huh? How could you think that? I mean, it's just, if you were to say, and I've done this, and you would get some elementary school students, and you would have two people over here, and these two people over here say the universe was created by a big bang, and you got a person over here saying that the universe was created by God. What do you think the elementary kids would choose? Yeah, I bet you 10 out of 10 they would choose the person that says that God created this universe. They couldn't get their head around a big bang. They couldn't see that, because all the big bangs they ever seen were destroyed things, just tore up things. But they knew God, and everybody was trained like this when they came up. Their mothers and fathers, they told them that, hey, it was God created this universe. He did. But when they get to junior high and they start getting into the sciences, then they start thinking, I don't know. They say they gave these two people a lot of money and a big prize for coming up with that. They wouldn't do that unless they knew what they was talking about. The Big Bang Theory guys, when they lauded all of the Nobel Prize on them. Then when you get to high school, oh, you in a different thing now. You beginning to be your own authority. You don't forgot about what you was taught about God creating the universe. Then you taking science, you taking biology, you taking math and all of this, and you begin to wonder about it. Now wait a minute, did God create this universe, or was it the Big Bang and everything like that? And now it's putting some doubt in your mind because you're becoming your own authority. See, you're beginning to think for yourself. You know, came from the elementary up to high school. Then you go to college, and you ain't got nothing but intellectual whores in college. And they gonna teach you everything to get you away from God, from believing in God, from believing in religion and the church. And they gonna tell you that there ain't no God and that the Big Bang is what creates the universe. Now, you're the parents, you at home, and here come your students you proud of. You sending them to college to learn and be able to, and they come home and they tell you, say, what you been learning in that college? I learned that there ain't no God and the universe was created by a Big Bang theory, and let me borrow the car keys. And they look at each other and they say, is this what we paying $50,000 a year for? To bring an idiot back in the house? And that's what it would be. But this, yeah, I'm exaggerating to a point, but this is what happened. College students come out of college and they are actually dumber than they were when they first went in. They've learned a lot of knowledge, of course. But like I told you, a lot of the college kids that come back to Mississippi, they graduate college and get a degree. They end up working for somebody that dropped out of school, working at McDonald's, that's done made manager, and they working under them. You know, so what can you say? But what I want to share with you is that go and buy this book. And I'm going to tell you, look, I only made it to page 4. And look how much more we got. We got all of this to go. Just think all of the things that you can learn about the universe by just reading this book. You don't have to go with Hawkins and his crew because they're going to be still trying to figure out the black hole long after they done left this world. They'll still be trying to figure out what's to do about nothing. Look, hey, I done had a good time today sharing stuff with you. And I'll be back. I don't know if I'm going to take a hiatus or not, but I just may to spend some of my money. Yeah, I may do that. I want to buy me a house, I want to buy me a Porsche, and dig me a pond. If you like to book a session, go to theorganismchapter4.com. All my books on Elvdon. That's all I got to share with you. I'm anxious to move on. Hello, neighbor. My name is Robert J. Ray. I'm a professional counseling therapist and trainer of trainers. I worked in a mental health prison for 11 years. I have fixed a lot of broken men and women in my 45 years as a counseling therapist. I was born in Maria, Mississippi and graduated from the famous T.J. Harris High School in 1963. T.J. Harris played Brinkley and Jim Hill in football and basketball every year before that stumbling block of integration dissimilar black